Hello and welcome to Nottingham. Welcome back to Nottingham for the UKU National Championships. We are here at the Highfields Sports Complex where we've been for several years in a row now. We've been for other tournaments. This is the women's final between Bristol and LMU, both of whom have a 3-1 record, one defeat in pool play for both these teams, but big wins in the semi-finals for them both as well. Both former national champions, teams with a lot of experience playing against each other. And my name is Sean Colfer, joined by Hannah Pendery for this game. Hannah, what are we looking forward to here?
Well, we're certainly looking for Bristol to try and continue the vibes. They had a very, very impressive performance against Iceni, who they've been trading universe point finishes with over the course of the season, but absolutely cruised through that game. They came out with a lot of fire. We're going for a high-octane, high-risk, high-reward strategy that saw them finish out with a 15-9 win. And of course, lots of former Iceni faces across the other side of the pitch. They'll be wearing white, will LMU. And it's a lot of veteran players that we've seen decades gone past. Masters age eligibility, of course, a key factor. Clues in the name, last London Masters Ultimate. But some real talismanic leaders and fantastic strategy, and everyone's still in extremely fine fettle as well. It looks like we'll get a look at the O-line for LMU coming out. So Sophie Bevan on the far side of that line. And then Amelia Durbin getting her ready to poll for her team.
So Durbin with the first pull of this women's final. LMU coming out on offense. Marshall X centres. And it's Alperin with the disc. Finds Maeta. Maeta goes with a deep shot to Bevan. Bevan under some pressure from Rodriguez. There's a call there. Both of them got their hand on that disc, but it looked as though Bevan was there first. Looks like some discussion about why the contact occurred. Again, a very aggressive shot first time out. Same third throw.
Yeah, I think Rodriguez just gets caught up a little bit there. Bevan having to go up high. Of course, formerly of Leeds, and a contested foul will send the disc all the way back into the hands of Maeta.
Yeah, Sophie Bevan won Nationals with Leeds, but also one of the people that was around for the start of stick, I think. So has played for several teams before coming to LMU. Maeta with a disc, looking for an option. Goes to Nichols, but just about knocked away there by Taylor. Gets her hand in there to knock that one away, and Bristol now coming out with the disc. Durbin picks it up and gets started quickly. We saw this in the semi-final. Payne looks for an option, finds Rodriguez. Taylor with space. Taylor looking downfield, finds Beeching, one of the leaders of this team. Beeching looks in the end zone. Ruth Taylor marked. Rodriguez goes in the end zone as well, also marked. Instead, we get swing. It's with Payne now. Beeching now centrally in front of the end zone. Looks for an option. Still everything covered up. She's got 3 players behind her here. Looking for something very, very tightly marked. Resets. That must have been a very high stall there as we come to Vanita. It's Beeching again. Very little happening downfield. Good marks downfield from LMU. Durbin with the disc. Back to Beeching. Payne's found some space. LMU just fronting everything in, so you see Bevan forcing Rodriguez back. Durbin inside to Beeching. Beeching tries to bleed it into the end zone. And a great layout block from Mara Alperin, who has to call an injury after that one.
Yeah, Alperin, really one of those players that will happily go for a bid. I had the pleasure of playing with herself for many, many years. She often makes her layouts with a historic roar, very much akin for a former Iceni player, of course. Iceni being a big old warrior herself.
Nichols picks it up. Tight D from Bristol all over the field. Beeching marking Jenna Thompson, the injury replacement for Alperin. Thompson, the lefty with the disc, goes over to Bevan. Those two captains of the women's masters team. Bevan goes downfield to Van Krieken, but Van Krieken is too far. And it's with Vaneta. Vaneta now finds Payne. Payne to Durbin. Good catch high up from Durbin. Durbin to Beeching. Beeching looks for an option downfield. Taylor's in the end zone. Away from Hamer. And there it is. Ruth Taylor reels it in. That's the first point of the game. A break for Bristol.
Yeah, fantastic throw there as well. Joanna Hamer has a lot of height, and so shaping that one around just to find that little pocket where Taylor's opened up the stretch, it's very key indeed.
A good first point for Bristol there. They put a lot of pressure onto LMU.
Well, that is what we would expect in terms of, the rolling in off of that big win. Of course, neither of these teams undefeated in the standings throughout the course of this tournament. LMU took a defeat against the Nuovo Iceni earlier on in the tournament in the pool stages. They had a pretty safe win as well against Smog. Handled them 13-7 after the Smog game. Went to Universe Point against Bristol yesterday, taking that first seed away. Well, second seed in the total standings. But LMU fighting through this morning handily. I think with slightly calmer conditions today than yesterday in terms of the wind, Sean, and I think perhaps that's favoured LMU's playing style.
Yeah, if that first point is anything to go by, we saw Maeta with a pretty aggressive option downfield. LMU looking to spread the play, use their deep game, try and end points quickly. And certainly that is going to work a lot better in the calmer conditions we have today than the slightly more blustery ones we had at the end of yesterday. As we see Bristol's D-line get ready again, Durbin back out, Beeching back out. Other than that, a fair amount of change. Molly Wedge, first time we see her, and we see slight changes for LMU's O-line as well. Huang to Weddle. As Kwok slashes across the field, marked by Wedge. World Games matchup there. Kwok goes downfield, looking for her sister, Joyce in the back of the end zone. Joyce catches it. Is that in? Is that in or is that out the back? That's very, very close. Some discussion there with Ruth Taylor, I believe that is, marking her about what happened with their feet there.
Yeah, a very difficult one to call. Obviously, Joyce is worrying about tracking the disc down. Esther Alcock there, I think, probably had the best shout at a good view of the line. We have a high camera position, so there is a little bit of bias here, but let's watch this one frame by frame. So there is the catch possession. Does that foot land inbounds or on the line? I think that one's probably out there, Sean.
I think it really depends whether Joyce has caught that before that back foot comes up, and it looked as though that back foot was up when she caught it, which would mean it would be out, but it's extremely close.
She did actually signal herself. It looks like she signaled herself with that she thought she was out of bounds with that sort of thumb pointing backwards.
I would assume she's asking, was I out? Because she's aware it's very, very close. Otherwise this discussion wouldn't have gone on so long, but it looks like it's contested going back to the thrower. Again, even with the benefit of the video, we can see that's extremely close, so an unsurprising outcome. Goes back to Karen Kwok as Joyce Kwok takes her position there, marked by one of the 235s on the team, Esther Alcock. For captains and organisers among you, extremely unhelpful.
I'm trying to think actually if this is the first time that the Kwok sisters have played together.
I know they played on Iceni for at least the season. So Karen Kwok with the disc, looking for Weddle downfield. Weddle reset to Huang, but that's too far. Bristol have forced another turnover out of LMU here. Can their D-line capitalise? Durbin picks it up again. Bristol going pretty quickly. Goes back to Sri Ramesh. Poach off by Joyce Kwok. Knocks it away. Molly Wedge can't reel that one in. And LMU, rather than taking a leaf out of Bristol's book and starting quickly, they want to walk up to it. Thompson at a round lefty break. Weddle to Karen Kwok. But that is just too high and over the head of Karen Kwok. A strange looking turnover there.
Yeah, the wind really picking up the disc. We saw that happen multiple times yesterday. We had calmer conditions for our semi-final matches this morning, but you can just see that one just gets a little bit pushed. Sort of has that sort of arcing effect. It just has a rainbow over the top of Karen Kwok's head and into the grass.
Yeah, a little bit too much edge, but Bristol will not mind that. They have possession again, and Durbin with the disc. Break over to Molly Wedge. Wedge infield to Beeching. Beeching downfield. We were expecting that to come, having seen what Bristol's game plan was in the last game, and it's Johnson reels it in. Johnson shoots for Mudd. Mudd reels that one in. It's another break for Bristol, and another one based on that deep game.
Yeah, I think at the moment, I mean, you have to be good to be lucky, but that is a little bit of the fates smiling down on Bristol to start this game off. Really unfortunate misses for LMU. They did well to get the opportunity to recover the point, but those extra bits of action. Let's get another look at that block from Joyce Kwok. And it's the kind of high risk, high reward strategy that Bristol can now start to really build upon. They've kind of, I'm trying to think if we saw Catherine Johnson really get involved in the semi-final. Bristol, they do have a couple of injured players who might be mindful about maintaining their form. Of course, lots of them pulling duty later on this season at the World Championships in Australia. And a couple of Masters players will be hoping to get their way to California. There were some questions last I checked as to whether that squad would be making the journey.
Yeah, there's a few players that are going to be playing with the women's team that are going to be training with a lot of these LMU players, so a lot of familiarity here. So some players that have got other stuff going on, but I think the Johnson throw, the catch and throw, really highlights just how aggressive Bristol want to be. It's ingrained across the roster, even with players like Johnson who are among the less experienced. So LMU running a pull play there, and now over with Bevan on that far side, and that disc just bounces up again, and it goes back to Binney and Taylor, and here we are back with Van Eyter. Van Eyter, lots of space on that sideline for Rodriguez. Rodriguez immediately looking to get rid of it somewhere, but she's got so much time. Taylor with the disc now, looking downfield. Again, looking for an aggressive shot. Comes into Rodriguez in the middle. Popped off of Van Eyter. Bristol finding space all over the field at the moment. Ramesh to Taylor. Back to Ramesh. Payne had space at the front there, but just looking a little too late. Inside shot instead to Ruth Taylor. Big bid coming in from Binney. Can't quite get there, and that is a turnover for Bristol, shooting into the end zone.
I mean, not a terrible option to throw on the high stall count. You could see her go all the way around the clock to try and squeeze something out, but just a bit too much feist on it for Binney to react.
So LMU looking to get some momentum now. It's with Gainey on the far side. Gainey goes down the line, but again, too far away from Van Krieken, and Bristol have another opportunity here.
Yeah, the semi-final that LMU played against Smog was on a pitch that was at a 90-degree angle to this one, so perhaps just taking a few more points into the game to just really adjust those throws.
Van Eyter back to Payne, and back to Van Eyter, nice little wrinkle. Taylor had space deep, but Van Eyter, unusually for this Bristol team, deciding that discretion the better part of valour. It's now with Payne. Over to Ramesh, low throw, goes to her knees to catch it, and Van Eyter again. LMU really sagging on these marks, letting Bristol move from side to side. Van Eyter. Rodriguez has space. Marshall peels off and lays out to try and get there, close to the block, but caught by Rodriguez. Taylor now, looking downfield. Back to Payne. Van Eyter. Van Eyter. Looking again for Payne. Those two kind of playing catch in the middle of the field, and Payne into Rodriguez, and Rodriguez with the score. That is 3 breaks in a row for Bristol. It would not be surprising at all, Hannah, to see LMU take a timeout here.
Yeah, they need to do something to just kind of calibrate themselves. They are making a lot of errors on offense that are just coming from throwing mistakes, which is really curious because they've got so many veterans, so many players capable of really just putting the disc where they want to. Love this one from the Polish import, trying to cause some real trouble there is Marszalek. And Van Eyter just putting that little bit of a stamp on the final moments. But a timeout call, and we'll take a break here in the booth. Don't go anywhere, though, as Bristol try and wave them.
Oh, my goodness. That is unbelievable. And created the shift and made for it.
That was absolutely incredible.
Nova Scotia Electric, become a member.
Meistering immediately launches it deep, got the shot down. No! Don't you dare do this! Finney!
Oh my my God!
Who let you move to Europe? This is disgraceful behaviour. I didn't realise you had a
Bostic
check
missed the
doppelganger. Don't you look at the camera like
And
you
it was
know
a
what
high
you
grab.
did.
The receiver
Honestly.
had no chance to actually check his feet. Seems like everyone will agree.
Hello and welcome back to Nottingham, UKU Nationals women's final between LMU, champions 2 years ago, and Bristol, champions 3 years ago, I believe. It was Iceni last year, LMU the year before that, Bristol the year before that. Bristol have started much the brighter here, 3 breaks in a row to take a 3-0 lead over their southern rivals. And they are playing really, really well defensively, making everything difficult for LMU, and just being very aggressive with the disc offensively, making it tough for LMU to live with them.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see the standings at the moment for the European ranking season. I'm loving the fact that LMU look like they are indeed attending the European Club Championships. There have been seasons where they've had to not attend that one, just difficult to get the time off work, but looks like they'll be going all the way this year.
So roller pull, it's now with Kwok on that far side after a couple of passes. Kwok again shoots the end zone for her sister Joyce. Karen to Joyce, Kwok connection. Tried it once already, didn't work once. This time worked out nicely and LMU on the board.
Yeah, there's got to be some blown coverage somewhere, because there was no one really in the vicinity of Joyce Kwok, and she did exactly the right thing, especially on a downwind point. Wind is currently going left to right as our camera views have it. So just really sitting on that deep break side corner of the pitch, and her sister sees that one coming and goes, yeah, absolutely, that's a shot she can take every single day.
Yeah, potentially Alice Beeching, who's been playing kind of roving role, doing a lot of switching. Maybe she was trying to get in the way of something else on the other side, leaving Kwok open.
Well, definitely that was an effective strategy, really just clustering the unders for Bristol in their game against Iceni this morning. The younger Londoners, I should say, really struggled to throw over the top of the defence, whereas LMU definitely have the ability and, well, I think it's more just the mental fortitude to throw over the top rather than anything else.
Definitely have more inclination than Iceni seems to have this morning. We've seen a couple from Kwok already, we've seen a couple from other players as well. I think LMU are going to be happy to take those deep shots, which Bristol did not see earlier on, as we see the first sign of an LMU zone, their D-line. First look at them as we see first look at Bristol's O-line, moving it fairly comfortably at the moment. Hocking looking for an option, goes back to Boyd. Defense setting now as Boyd directing traffic downfield, back into Boyd. She's got Oldfield and Henry in very similar positions over on the far side there. Hocking extremely close to the sideline, but just about landing in field. Boyd pointing downfield, faking that big huck. She's got Henry wide open on the far side, instead electing to come into Oldfield. Looks as though we've melted to match from LMU now. Oldfield infield to Link over to Henry, who had a really good game in the semi-final, and Henry goes down the line to Payne. Ellie Payne catches the goal. Good hold from Bristol under zone pressure from LMU.
Yeah, definitely a solid amount of containment going on in the early stages there, but as the melt to match happened, you could see Sharma just like trying to really poach in. Bristol hadn't thrown any of those passes over to the far side for Gemma Henry, but Hocking playing the role that we saw Carla Link doing to destroy Iceni's zone with that little pop just over the top of the front line. So you'll see here, she's pretty close to that sideline, tracks it down though, and that foot just about stays in. Even the back heel barely touching the blades of grass even, with the white paint on them. But a nice shot from Henry as well to finish it off. Just lovely curvature on that one. Sits it up high, and not even a big bid required for Ellie Payne. Just sits in the pocket and waits to collect the goal.
Yeah, you saw Karen Kwok on the sideline point that catch was in from Lisa Hocking pretty much immediately, in case any of her teammates needed her perspective.
Just a little bit from the stats board actually. At the moment, the passes per turnover from LMU's O-line is 3.5, whereas the pass completion for turnovers for Bristol's D-line is 15.
Bristol's D-line being incredibly clinical so far then. Hamer with the disc. to Maeta, but Maeta just bounces off the hands of Maeta as the wind pushes it on a little bit. Alcott down the line. Ramesh takes that deep shot, looking for the option there, and Rodriguez is able to catch it, and that's another break for Bristol. Hannah, you talked about it, turnovers for LMU's O-line, 3.5. I think that was 3 passes and then a turnover, and then a goal for Bristol.
Yeah, absolutely stunning throw down that sideline for Ramesh. Beautiful stuff in that momentum, carrying it through an aggressive upline cut. And the errors that LMU are coming out with really just being very heavily punished in the early stages of this game. Bristol already 3 points away from taking half. And just that one on the board, the sister connection that paid off. I think, again, the wind's just getting a little bit underneath the bottom of the disc there, just taking it away from the hands of Kaylee Maeta. And this is just a very strange affair going on right now, Sean. But I have to say that the beauty of the throw there to Rodriguez, I mean, just so much space, the trust and the less experienced players of Bristol women's club side coming through to the fore in the final. I love to see them actually really involving those players early on, getting them that big game experience, the big moment experience, and seeing them flourish.
And flourish, definitely the right word, because they're absolutely flying at the moment. They had some confidence coming into the semi-final. They looked the more confident team. Iceni a little more tentative, but Bristol with their heads up, flying high. They've only turned over 3 times so far in this game. One of those was a lovely poach block from Joyce Kwok. One of them was a high release or a high stall throw into the end zone, and one of them was another layout block from Mara Alperin. So they are doing brilliantly at the moment with possession as LMU trying to get a foothold back in this game. Kulikowska down the line to Kwok. Kwok fires deep to Weddle, but that's just too far. Kwok has not been shy about taking those shots on, certainly has it in the locker, but that one just too flat, and Weddle couldn't catch up to it.
Yeah, nice mark from Jess Taylor there, quite flat. Makes that more of a challenging shot from Karen Kwok. Definitely Weddle had good separation downfield.
So Bristol's D-line with another opportunity here. Van Nijter. We have Thompson poaching all the way off the back, leaving Mudd on that far side completely poached. Back with Payne. Payne, very few options here in her own end zone. Tough position to be in. Van Nijter finds some space. Van Nijter to man. Durbin. Nice working out of that little jam there in there from Bristol. Beaching back into Durbin and Van Nijter again. LMU sticking with this more poachy, switchy look. Getting some good joy out of it. Man. Van Nijter, who's really been running the D-line pretty much the whole game, has been on most of these points and has been doing a good job keeping that disc moving. Durbin to Mudd. Mudd the lefty with that nice little break into Man. Man's looking downfield now. Van Nijter, Mudd has space. Van Nijter decides not to go there. She's not one of the more expansive players on this line. Keeps the disc moving and does it well. Mudd hits the deck. Mudd looking for something here. Van Nijter's very tight in, as is Durbin. That's a high stall. Get rid of the disc, I think. So that's 2 high stall throwaways.
It's a call.
Looks as though it's a contested or is a stall out. Durbin and Weddle talking about something here. Not 100% sure what that call would be that would affect that turnover.
Well, potentially a foul call. There was definitely a back and forth tussle between those two when Mudd had the disc.
So even the foul, if the foul happens, even if the foul happens, I don't think it affects that turnover.
I think that if I caught that correctly, that was we're just having a chat about contact.
Yeah.
So if you're not aware of that, having a chat about the level of physicality in a game early days is the correct thing to do always.
Thompson finds Hwang. Kulikowska opens up that arm. There's a travel call, it looks like. Nevitt catches it and brings it into the end zone. There's a travel called on the throw from Mudd.
Yeah, I spotted that one as well. It was, whether you say it's necessarily massively impactful, Kulikoshka definitely travelled before she had a mark applied. It was a kind of a bit of a saddle, the resetting of the feet. She's going to retract it.
I think the Bristol force was going to be backhand anyway. You can see from other players it's going to be backhand anyway. Kulikoshka just kind of hop into that a little and take a couple of steps.
That's a lot of foot movement. The fact that there's no mark when she's moving her feet. I think if that first thought, because you could see the kind of the hustle there from the steps, it's because she's thinking about that huck, she's thinking about that throw. She actually bails out, resettles herself, has if anything moved more towards the sideline, so you think probably not gaining you much of an advantage, and then the mark gets applied, and actually when she releases the disc, the footwork's fine.
I suppose I think I've said on streams before, that is the kind of travel call that I definitely don't like. It is open side, but I do understand you're trying to get you can argue that the hop is trying to generate more rotational power for that backhand. I understand the thinking behind that one, but a good discussion from them both, and Mudd retracting the call. I think it's just a good discussion, and in the end, a nice outcome.
As I say, I think if when that big old foot move, if that had been the thing that planted her and allowed her to set, it's the technicalities of the rules, but the pass completion stats currently going on in this game at the moment, really it is in favour of Bristol. They've earned those 4 breaks. LMU with the job to do here.
Is 95% good? That seems good.
It's very high.
Any experts in the vicinity who can confirm for us? That seems pretty good to me. Big pull from LMU as they look to get their first break of the game. Carla Link with the disc. Another zone from LMU. Oldfield now, far side. Flissman, usually playing on the O-line, came out for that last D-line, is back out here now. Bristol keep that disc moving. Andrews to Boyd and over to Payne on the far side. Payne into Link, who has time to gather that one. Payne is on her bike going deep. Andrews looking for an option, doesn't have an easy one, comes back to Boyd. Boyd can't quite get there, and that is the first turnover for the Bristol O-line, I believe. And an opportunity now for LMU, who get the disc moving quickly. Ford going deep, looking for Sharman, who has space and time, reels that one in, and it's a break for LMU and a big boost for the team from London.
Yeah, you can see that there. Andrews subject to a very aggressive force. There was a moment where she probably could have squeezed one out to Ellie Payne on that open side. The cut was developing, but just a little bit too late on the ignition for looking for the dump from Boyd. There was a moment where I thought Boyd was going to make an explosive bid, but I think she just didn't quite have the footing underneath her. And solid defence, but then Sharma does what she does best, sneaks off into the deep space and clutches that goal. And the first break for LMU. At the moment,
yeah, Claire Sharman finding space downfield. It was a nice throw from Ford, and that is maybe the first sign of a little bit of nerves from Bristol. They were flying, their D-line playing really well, using the deep game really well, but we're in a final. They're playing against a good team. Good teams are going to find solutions, and when things like that happen, maybe we haven't seen Bristol look nervous in the semi or in the final so far, but what do you think? Do you think we might see a bit of that at this point, Hannah?
what, nerves from Bristol? I think they might tighten their lines a little bit. It's a bit early to start pulling power lines, but they're keeping things up. See Roskowska leaving the field. Fisk ready for another big pull. The last one downfield for her, downwind, sorry, for her was absolutely huge. It's going to go for a roller this time.
Broadly the same line out here for Bristol, so they're playing what looks like another pretty standard O-line for them, as another zone from LMU. This time Bristol with the wind at their backs. Carl Link stepped backwards to throw that one to Lisa Hocking and knocked away by Poliquin. And now LMU with the disc. Back to Andres. Costello. Ford again through that last score. Andres. Payne coming in, poaching away, and Hocking able to knock that one to the ground. Pick it up quickly to try and stop that LMU zone from setting, but they are in that already. And Link and Oldfield run some give and go on that near sideline, looking for space. LMU are out of it already, into match. Link with the disc. Big disconnect between her and the cutters, but Oldfield comes off this near sideline to find space. Oldfield's looking downfield, there's not much there. Instead comes inside to Link. Link with an inside flick that man catches with her head, pinning it against her skull. One way to get the job done. That's Oldfield with the disc. Oldfield looking into the end zone. Instead comes back to Hocking, one of the captains of the team. Exchanges passes with Oldfield, hits the front corner, but Oldfield doesn't like that one. Instead looking for another option. That storm must be getting pretty high now. Break throw to Hocking. Hocking with the disc. A lot of movement in that end zone from Bristol, and instead it is a layout block from Andrews as Hocking tries to shoot through the end zone to Payne at the back. Nothing doing though.
Yeah, after a couple of high stall resets, it's a shame to see that one go deliberately into the centre and just trying to keep Andres, catch Andres sleeping, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, Andres had the read on that one the whole way.
And there's no space as well for Payne to come forward because of the body position that Andres has on her. Interesting choice.
A lot of movement from Bristol with that end zone set. You could see quite a few people shifting around. That brought a lot of defenders around, made it difficult as Treble shoots deep to Ford with the wind in their faces. It doesn't go as far as maybe it would have, but Ford goes deep to Sharman. A lot of contact there. Sharman and Oldfield, both tall players, aggressive with the disc in the air, both very, very good when the disc is in the air. And there was definitely some contact, but they'll be talking about why and how that contact was initiated.
In live play, I think it's Oldfield trying to go over the back of Sharma. There's a little movement there from Sharman as she sort of twists on the inside shoulder of Oldfield. I think she had every right to be in that space. It's just the reach over from Oldfield, perhaps getting a little bit too much contact, because it did look like Sharman had possession and then the contact just knocking it out.
I wonder as well whether the contact was on Sharman's head potentially. You can see, like you say, Hannah, Oldfield's reaching over, but it looks as though they're going to contest and it's going to go back to Ford.
Indeed. Kate Ford, of course, long-time Iceni player back in the day, also of Kent Ultimate fame, now residing in Poole, playing for Mixed Feelings and Poole Party. And I'm trying to think what it is, the Crash the Zone, that's the badger. Played for the UK side at the European Beach Ultimate Championships last season in Royan.
Ford with the disc. Bristol back into a poachy set on underneath, and that is a stall out called. Oh, an absolutely unreal catch from Claire Sharman. There is contact on that one. Again, that is two players going for the same space. I don't know that there's a huge amount either one could do to avoid that one, but what a catch.
Well, let's get another look at that one, see which vectors of momentum were being carried through. You see Oldfield, eyes on the prize. Probably has the slightly better position, but she's coming in with a lot of force, and I think Sharman gets a bit stuck between her and is that Saskia? Yes, Kantorovich, yeah. So Kantorovich's position doesn't really allow Sharman to move out of the way cleanly. So a bit of a Sharman sandwich.
I think everyone's jumping towards the disc as well. There's no one jumping straight up, right? And they're all jumping towards the disc. They're all entitled to do that. I would be very surprised if this was anything other than a contested foul. And with a stall out call on the throw, it may be going back. Oh, fair enough.
Well, so that one's resolved. So it's a turnover signalled by Sharman, and I don't know if that's.
So that's a retracted. Did Sharman call the foul and retract it?
I don't know. There's a lot of hand signals going on. But I think the focus is so Kate Ford and Grace Andrews having a chat about the stall out or nah. Definitely a high still situation for that high release backhand. I mean, shows the throwing form of Ford to release it that high, that late, and get that distance on it.
Well, that catch. Clearly Claire Sharman lost it as she was coming down. Looked like an absolutely unreal catch. High pointed it, wasn't able to hang on. Good spirit shown by both teams to get a resolution there. It's now with Oldfield in the middle. Low one to Payne, but Payne hangs on to it. Payne's looking for something, goes around to Link. Link down the line to Oldfield. Oldfield is going to have Payne in front of her, but there's a lot of bodies there. Man cutting in there as well. Bristol struggling slightly with this end zone structure, keeping things clean. Link on the sideline. Not much to throw to here. Oldfield goes down, but there's Payne. Slightly more into the centre of the field. Finds Oldfield. Oldfield moving around a lot there. Constantly moving, and Andres can't quite live with it. In the end, finds some space at the front of the end zone. Another hold for Bristol.
Yeah, some one-on-one isolation more or less to finish that one off. I'm not a huge fan of how close Bristol's stack was on their end zone offense to this near sideline. It meant that people had such a smaller space to move in, to draw around, and you saw actually when Oldfield then did have that space to just move back and forth in that pocket on the front side. It's about that kind of, where Saskia Kantorovich is at that point, but that it's been a long old battle to take that 6th point for Bristol. I mean, that lackadaisical first pass from Link, sort of almost like the defenders weren't there. But this is truly becoming a battle between these two teams. For this man wearing the Frisbee like a hat, how many uses can you find for a disc?
Fair play. Keeping your eye on it and then keeping your bunts on it.
And the last bit, you can see the intensity there. Payne taking a hard disc and then throwing the assist.
Both teams kind of struggling to keep hold of things at the moment. We've seen a lot of turnovers offensively.
But that's a key point for Bristol, of course, not allowing LMU to go on a run of breaks on their own, taking those 3-0 lead to start us off.
So LMU now starting just about near the halfway line. Nichols in to Alperin. Good to see her back after taking that injury early on. Alperin looking for an option, has Marshallek. Marshallek looking down the line, fakes that. Has Alperin as the reset. Alperin goes down the line, there's very little there now. That must be a fairly high stall situation. Knocked away by Johnson.
Yeah, solid poach from Wedge as well, just to really shut the door in front of Alperin. Formerly of North America, now a British citizen, passed the test and everything. And it has been for some years, to be fair.
So it's Van Nijter again picking it up on that sideline. Taylor provides an option deep. Wedge marked by Bevan. Across the field, risky one, but it does go all the way over to Ramesh. Treble was in the vicinity there. Van Nijter must have touched the disc more than anyone else in this final so far. Durbin. Van Nijter has space to get that back. Bristol now on their own end zone line. Durbin. The sagging off of Van Nijter means we're consistently getting space on this line, but pinned to the sideline. Van Nijter goes inside to Beeching. Good pickup by Beeching. Beeching to Wedge. Wedge, you would imagine, is looking downfield, but there's no usable options there. Takes Van Nijter on the break side instead. Van Nijter looking downfield now. She's been more reticent to send it deep, but that one's just going to go a little too far. Surprising against the wind. You would have thought that might have held up, but Beeching couldn't catch up to it.
Yeah, the breeze just dropped, I think, in that moment. What an inopportune time for that. I'm really enjoying the kind of puzzle that LMU are throwing at Bristol at the moment. It's the sagging off in the lanes, the poaching off of the far side of the stack. It's almost like a question being asked repetitively of which player is currently not marked. So we see some bracketing of Bristol's own.
Yeah, you can see Molly Wedge pointing to tell people where to go. Beeching saying go deep, pushing Taylor underneath. We saw this against Iceni. It was massively beneficial to Bristol's chances. Taylor tight on Hamer there. Hamer, big shot downfield, looking for Bevan, but they are going with the wind at their back, LMU, and that definitely just pushes that too far away from Bevan.
Yeah, a tricky one. I mean, Bevan definitely was a couple of yards free in the deep space, but because not actively moving, that makes it a really hard ask, and the wind suddenly picking up and annoying both of the teams.
Yeah, both teams seem to be in a pretty good moment with the conditions, but struggling a little more now as it's with Durbin. Looking for an option, goes to Van Nijter. Van Nijter looking downfield. Wedge goes through a poach to get it on her own end zone cone. Back to Durbin. Durbin has two people cutting into the same space. Ramesh to Taylor. Back to Durbin. Bristol throwing passes, not making a huge amount of yards, and as I say that, Durbin unleashes a deep one. That's going to go back over the heads of everybody. Hamer makes sure, knocks it away. Aiming, I think, for Johnson, but Hamer had the advantage.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, the shape you could get on that throw, if that had floated a little bit further to the other side of the pitch, that would have been absolute money, because that is where LMU are not putting their defensive coverage.
So poaching again from Bristol. The deep shot goes up, but Durbin gets there ahead and knocks away from Maeta. Hamer potentially catching up on that one, but Durbin continuing the run to just try and make sure.
Yeah, absolutely. In the windy conditions, that's, I think, beyond the ability for there to be catch your D questions. You just have to go through with that momentum. But this is how you follow it. You finish it off. The job isn't done until the disc is dead. And that's what makes a great defender. Yeah,
you were having the catch your D discussion earlier while there's a Van Nijters walking it up. I can give my opinion. I don't agree that you always need to catch your D. That one, you're exactly right, Hannah, is exactly the time where that would be a terrible time to catch your D, because she was running in towards it. Whereas knocking it away means you can set your offense, which is good. And making sure, good stuff, as we see Wedge and Taylor exchange passes to generate some yards. Van Nijter now. Durbin free on this far near side, but goes over to the far side to Taylor. Back to Van Nijter. Big gap between the cutters and the handlers, but Taylor fills that in and picks it up and goes deep to Wedge. It's going to the left. Wedge tracking it. Wedge snaffles that one. Another score for Bristol.
Yeah, not the easiest read, but that was a fantastic throw from Taylor. Identifies the opportunity and puts just enough onto it. And at the right time as well. I think Wedge wasn't necessarily looking actively for that throw to come. Just kind of, just annoying in the deep space, hanging around, but able to make the recovery very easily, and a great read over the back of the head.
Yeah, I think Bristol, again, those deep players must be basically always aware that it might come, because they've been so aggressive with the disc and seemingly this whole weekend. They've really been taking those deep shots on. Taylor spots Wedge. She goes through the zone. It's a nice bit in there, trying to get it from Maeta, but Taylor spots it and sends it deep. And as you say, Hannah, Wedge looking over the right shoulder, has to change, going back the other way, snaps it with one hand. Bristol flying again at the moment.
It's also a slightly unconventional shot for Taylor to take as well, because you've got those two defenders sort of trying to apply some sort of like loose, saggy cup. It's not quite a full zone set, but normally you wouldn't see that many players take on a full backhand huck through that space. Generally speaking, it tends to be when someone has a bit more clearance going on.
So the D-line for Bristol really thriving at the moment. They're up 5 breaks to 1. Doing a really good job as we see the number of completed passes by the D-line. 5 for LMU, getting their 1 break. 78 for Bristol. Really showing just how many times they're getting their hands on the disc and how they're able to keep a hold of it and convert. As LMU go down that sideline, it's a lovely throw from Weddle. Nevitt leaves her feet to make sure. A good hold from LMU at a very much needed time.
Yeah, very tight margin there. That one had to just rise at the perfect moment. Van Nijter did a good job of hustling in front. I think maybe a little bit of extra help from the elements. What do you reckon, Sean?
Yeah, I think you're right. It might have bobbled up a little bit again. That wind is going from left to right as we look at it with this camera. Slightly in the face of LMU there, but as we've seen, a couple of throws have not held up as you would have expected. That one did hold up a little bit, goes over the head of Van Nijter, and Nevitt does a great job tracking it to reel it in. You see the replay here. Thompson to Kulikovska and Weddle. Lovely chain down that open sideline, and then throw. Good adjustment from Nevitt, and just making sure of the catch.
Well, the expectation from the almighty algorithm is, of course, that this is going to be a very tight game indeed. The expected EUCS ranking score is pretty much a draw here. Of course, you aren't allowed to have draws, and certainly not for a final. The only mutual opponent they've faced so far this season, of course, being Dublin Gravity. Both teams taking wins with similar scorelines. LMU 10-8.
As we see the clean holds there, really shows you when LMU's offense is firing, it's firing pretty well. That last hold and their previous hold, both pretty quick. 3 passes and 4 passes, I think.
Well, I think they have those turnovers in the early stages of the game. A lot of them were off those bigger throws that just missed the mark.
Hocking can't quite feel the pull, goes through her legs, and it's a slightly different zone look than we've seen before from LMU. A flatter wall. As Bristol move this back and forth to try and diagnose what's going on.
Well, this is about how fast you can swing and how aggressively you can set your players. You see Andrews there really just trying to go further up the field, and we get a Melter match.
Link dribbling a bit there to work it up the field. It's with Henry. Henry looking for an option. Finds Boyd with a lovely inside, and Boyd goes around to Oldfield. Really nice hole from Bristol, really nice.
Yeah, fantastic. Sort of, as you say, Carla Link just dribbling the disc around the field, going every other, and there was pretty much nothing that Alice Dinsdale-Young could do about it, which is an interesting one to say as we see this celebration, sort of lemmings-like for Bristol, the animal, not the Frisbee team. But yeah, you just see how dynamic Carla Link is when she decides to really take control of a point like they did when they had the Melter match. I mean, Alice Dinsdale-Young is an absolutely phenomenal athlete, an sort of European ranked swimmer. I don't know if she's still taking to the pool as well as the ultimate field these days, but the job is made much easier. And then Henry through to Boyd, and the identification. Oldfield just catching a little bit on the back foot, the mark of Poliquin. Oh no, that's Costello.
Really nice offensive hold from Bristol. A clean hold for them. It's only the second one they've had. D-line has been doing much of the work here in the first half, but they've taken half, 8-4. While the teams are having a quick break, we'll have one as well. We'll be back with you for the second half as Bristol lead LMU 8-4.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, ULTI.TV, the best in the world.
Become a member
and fund our work to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the ultimate world and beyond.
Hello and welcome back to Nottingham for the women's final of the UK National Championships. Here at the Highfields Sports Complex, we saw a pretty dominant first half performance from Bristol's D-line. They lead LMU 8-4. What do we see in the first half, Anna?
We saw thrills and spills, Sean. I mean, it was all about the early stages of this game. Bristol women coming out and absolutely stifling LMU. It did take them a second to go, spite of the cherry every time for their D-line, but they opened up a scoreline of 3-0. I mean, total completed passes statistics, that is punishing right now. LMU have been playing a very different style of offense to Iceni, who Bristol bested on our live stream this morning by a significant margin. They have been taking on deeper options, bigger throws, more ambitious and feisty play, but it's just been a little bit cleaner in favour of Bristol. And they've been grinding things out, but we have seen some little specks of hope coming into this game for LMU. Of course, they have got one break to their tally as well, but they're just going to need to be a little bit more conservative, perhaps, just in those moments when they need to.
The LMU at the moment struggling. If there's a turnover in the point, they've only got one of them. They've only recovered 1 point. O-line, where there was a turnover, got it back. As we see Bristol working nicely against that similar kind of flat zone that we saw from LMU to end the first half. Boyd with the disc now, just past halfway with Hocking. Boyd, Hocking and Link have been the O-line handling group and have been doing well at picking apart the different questions LMU are asking them. Link to Hocking. Man has space downfield. Hocking throws to the back of the end zone where Man reels it in. Really nice offensive hold from Bristol, and they are trotting away with this one.
I love that little look over the shoulder you get from Fliss Mann as she runs that one down. Look out for it when we give you the replay of that goal. We're going to have to find out what this like little prancing motion is. Is it a pony? Is it what animal? What vibe does that give to you, Sean?
Beaver. You often see beavers as they're making their dams trotting around like that, I think.
Well, we're going to have to look that one up on YouTube after this game is done.
Almost certainly wrong, don't look it up.
But at the moment, the offensive hold rate, let's get a look at that one for you. It's been quite intense for the O-lines of this team. Oh, it's a little bit scuffed there on our stats board. But at the moment, there we go. We're flirting with you on our stats board. So at the moment, yeah, Bristol's O-line looking absolutely solid as a rock. Unfortunately, the same cannot be quite said of LMU. At the moment, their conversion rate for their O-line at the moment is just 38%.
Yeah. Struggling to keep hold of the disc, and as I said earlier, when they do turn over, they are really struggling to get it back and convert. They've turned it over more times than Bristol, unsurprising given that Bristol scored more points.
And the passes per turnover at the moment, LMU are getting 3 passes for turnovers on their O-line. This is not what we expected from such a vet side.
Deep shot goes up, but there's not enough on that one with the wind in their faces, and Bristol pick it up and go immediately, as we've seen this game and the last game. Taylor with the disc now. Taylor goes to Wedge. Wedge looking downfield. Beeching is making a big cut, taking 2 defenders with her. Payne shoots up the line, goes back to Beeching. The around taken away, instead goes to the inside. Ruth Taylor tracks that one down. Turns down the shot to the end zone. It's with Durbin now. Back to Beeching. Durbin pretty much standing on the brick mark. Ruth Taylor, Molly Wedge has space. Ruth Taylor I think was looking for a dump and didn't see Wedge. Beeching instead with the disc. Ruth Taylor standing in that around space. Beeching I think would have liked to uncork an inside flick there, but the space wasn't there. Beeching again with the disc. Ramesh. Beeching up the line. Looks like that was between Beeching and Durbin, and instead it goes straight to Maeta. Van Krieken with the disc. Fakes that deep look. Looking back for Alperin. Alperin can't quite reel it in, just reaches up and doesn't get there. Beeching picks it up and Bristol go quickly. Wedge has loads of space here. Wedge across. That goal is scored by Jessica Taylor, and that is another break for Bristol.
Well, that is just a really lovely bit of give-go action, and the little hover backhand to finish off the point and seal the deal. I mean, it's really interesting to see how this game is shaking out, Sean. Certainly, we are seeing fewer of those big shots, the ambitious, risky things from Bristol women. They have slowed things down. They are being a bit more conservative, just those turnovers coming from throwing errors, unfortunately. But the pass completion rate per turnover for Bristol women's D-line is 13.7, which is going to be very different if we cast our eyes back to their semi-final. They were doing a lot more of counter-attacks that were just boshing it.
To be fair, we're seeing a lot fewer long fields for Bristol. They don't have as much opportunity to shoot it deep because LMU are turning over inside their own brick mark.
But it is staggering. In the semi-final that they played against Iceni this morning, Bristol's passes per turnover were 2.3. And look at that difference at the moment. The D-line completed passes. Of course, just that one bite at the cherry for LMU, which they did make the most of.
Yeah, only 1 turnover from Bristol's O-line so far. 2 turnovers, sorry, on the 1 point, and they turned over on the point they got broken. So 3 turnovers from the O-line is not too bad at all. LMU on halfway. Huang to Nevitt, reaches low to get it. And then to Weddle, under pressure from Rodriguez. Looks like a strip to me. Everyone agrees. Weddle pulling that one back to fire into the end zone. Rodriguez puts a hand out to try and block it, instead knocks it out of the hand illegally. So it's with Weddle. And just getting the positioning downfield right. Back into Weddle, who goes to the end zone, and Kulikovska did have that space as everyone went back to the right spot, and another clean hold for LMU.
Yeah, stunning throw there. It's like they've been doing that all of their lives, especially Cheska Weddle. originally from Leeds back in the day.
Yep.
One of the founders of SICK. I don't think SICK have any of their original roster now remaining. And a couple of Sicklets actually coming across from that team to join this LMU roster this season. Of course, they'll be looking for the next World Masters Club Championships. They were present at the last one in Limerick. Had a good campaign there. But of course, still testing themselves against these youngsters. But the clean hold rate at the moment. Well, let's have a look at those stats, shall we? 60% for Bristol and 30% for LMU. It's going to have to be a defensive grind back. Double the scoreline. Bristol 10, LMU 5.
Yeah, the raw numbers on that clean hold percentage really showing just how this game has been going. It's 3 clean holds for 5 for Bristol, 3 clean holds for 10 for LMU. Really gives you an indication of just how much LMU have been struggling. And as I said, LMU scored 4 points. 3 of those were clean holds. 1 of them was 1 turnover, but any other point where LMU have turned over, they've not been able to score so far. Bristol doing a really good job of making the seeming physical advantage they have in terms of downfield speed, pay, and LMU struggling to contain the team from the southwest. As Boyd will pick this one up on the sideline. Marked by Treble. Boyd goes back to Hocking. No link on the field here, instead it goes to Andrews. Andrews looks downfield, but a good poach from Treble stops that inside. Hocking finds Oldfield, marked by Sharman. Those two have been having a fantastic battle in this game. Man, for Hocking. Oldfield on that far side there. Henry, Gemma Henry's been playing really well. Finding space downfield again. Oldfield to Saskia Kantarovitz. And Kantarovitz is in at the front of the end zone. Another very straightforward hole for Bristol women.
Yeah, I was wondering and waiting for most of that point when Gemma Henry was going to really start making some moves. The patience of Bristol women's ultimate style at the moment is really apparent. She was kind of poached off on the near sideline when Andrews found herself on a high stall situation looking for the reset. I wonder what the difference would be if LMU started putting really tight, really close, agile handler matchups against Bristol, because that was certainly when we saw them feel a little bit more under pressure in their matchup against Iceni. When they got the front set right, those matchups really dynamic. That put a lot of pressure on them, made them feel very uncomfortable, because even though they're hitting a lot of those deep spaces, are Bristol women, at the moment they've quietened down a little bit, so you can probably afford to put more pressure on the back three.
Yeah, Bristol really not seeming to find too much difficulty with moving the disc back and forth. Those handlers are able to get free when they need to. As you say, Hannah, they're able to find space and get that reset pretty quickly and move it on again quickly. LMU really struggling to stem the flow, so a bit more pressure on the handlers, certainly something that could make a significant difference for an LMU team that needs a shot in the arm here. 10-5 down now as their O-line comes out, and it's Jenna Thompson on the disc. Alperin. Flatter mark by Bristol there. Wedge come through on Maeta, but Maeta gets her hands on it. Alperin. Ruth Taylor flying through on Bevan, but Bevan also catching it. LMU making good catches under very strong pressure here. Bevan down the line. Van Krieken fakes that deep shot, instead looking backwards. Has Thompson, but doesn't like the angle there. Goes down the line to Bevan. Oh, and coming across there as well is Joe Hamer, leaving her feet to try and get there. Looks as though there might be a call here. Not 100% clear what that call is at the moment, as we see Van Krieken throw that one to the end zone. Could be that there's contact. There's a little bit of contact on the back there, maybe, from Van Nijter.
Yeah, I struggle to see anything super obvious for there to be a call, but that's the nature of being quite a far distance away from the action that's happening.
Yeah, it looks as if that's been retracted. It is a turnover, and Bristol have the disc on their own end zone line. Wedge has come back for it from Durbin. A little bit of give-go to get it back into the middle. Wedge over to Beeching, who catches it despite the attentions of Maeta. plays through the contact, and Wedge looking deep, fires deep, looking for Johnson, who reels it in. Johnson over to Taylor, and Taylor back to Johnson, and it's another break for Bristol. More aggressive shooting downfield. Great read from Johnson, the give and go. Nice score.
Wow. I mean, it really is now just Bristol feeling the vibes, enjoying themselves. I mean, we're starting to see the game plan for LMU coming together on their offense. They've been much cleaner when they have been able to hold onto the disc. Every time they've turned it over in the second half, they have been broken. But at the moment, the turnovers for the O-lines really is a very different story. Bristol's O-line turned over just 3 times in this match.
It's a beautiful throw, isn't it? Goes into Johnson, just tails right into her hands.
So that is probably one of the telling stats of this game. A timeout being called on the field, Sean. What would you be saying inside of LMU's huddle?
The only thing LMU can really say here is that yes, it hasn't been going our way so far, but we've seen that we can put pressure on them, we've seen that we can make it difficult for them, and we've seen that we can score our offensive points when we take good options and we make good choices and execute them in the way that we know we can. These are all very experienced players who've played together for a long time. They can get back into this game. It's going to be incredibly difficult. They're playing against not only a good team, but a team that's playing very well and is clearly extremely confident. So it'll be hard, but they're capable of doing it.
Well, of course, this is not the final we necessarily expected. It's all been topsy-turvy here in the women's division at UK Nationals. The pool that Bristol emerged from was extremely interesting. So that had Sick, Smog and Horizon as the opponents. And I don't think anyone would have put money on Horizon taking a scalp over Sick in the first matchup,
Nope.
nor Smog taking Bristol to Universe Point in the first round of play. But it just goes to show strange things can happen in the format of a tournament, and LMU having dispatched Smog very handily this morning on a field at 90-degree angle, so a crosswind. And I really have to say, a couple of points ago there was that absolutely delicious move downfield on a set play for LMU. The disc just didn't get there, not quite the execution again on the throw. Let's see what they do now.
So Huang with the disc. We're seeing a familiar O-line for LMU. Kulikovska down the line. Nevitt had some space, but it's a very narrow angle. Kulikovska instead looks downfield now, looking for Karen Kwok. Is that going to come back in? Kwok trying to toe the line, but that never comes back in. That was out the whole way, and it'll be another short field opportunity for Bristol.
This is the thing that's really interesting for me in this game. The physical movement, the structure that LMU has been very good. It's been very solid, but the thing that's letting them down consistently throughout the course of the game, they did have that cleaner section in the middle, but a lot of the errors have been off the throws, which if you'd have asked me what was going to come unstuck for them in the early stages, I would not have said that.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of players who've got a lot of experience as handlers throwing in high pressure situations for club teams, national teams, but at the moment it's not quite working for them. Bristol, everything seems to be working for them at the moment. It's back over to Orcock on that far sideline. Pick the disc up from the turnover. Into Mudd. Mudd, the lefty, looking for something, but instead comes back to Orcock. Bristol seems to be moving it without too many issues here. Binney back into Orcock. Nice catch. Orcock looking to be one of a sibling pair with gold medals today. Her brother will be playing for Clapham. Just through Rodriguez's hands. Bristol give that one back, and a second opportunity for LMU. Downfield from Huang to Kulikovska again. Nevitt has space away from her mark, but Kulikovska motioning for it to come under. Huang to Thompson. Thompson marked by Mudd, lefty on lefty. Kulikovska again, really playing well in this point. Nevitt trying to come under to get it. It looks as though that is backed up by Rachel Douglas. It is. It's a score for LMU. Wasn't the intended receiver, but does a great job keeping her eye on it and reeling that one in for a very, very valuable score for LMU.
Absolutely. Douglas hasn't been on the pitch too much, and I know she has some knee injuries that have been causing her issue in the past couple of seasons. So great to see her able to launch just to keep that possession alive and get the goal in the bag. But massive pressure. Again, you can see that turnover. Just a clap of doom, really.
Straight through the arms.
But Kulikovska, they're asking for the underneath shot, has Nevitt delivering it, but just can't quite execute the inside backhand. Huge effort from Rona Binney, and just falling to the knees.
Rachel Douglas, a friend of ours, so we'll call that a unbelievable athletic layout block. As we see LMU able to recover 2 points now on their offense after a turnover. I was saying earlier that was the thing they were really struggling with. They've had a lot of offensive points where there have been turnovers. That's the kind of stat they're going to need as we go through this game, right, Hannah?
Yeah, that's true, but it's still a long campaign, and actually I think probably more important to just go out there and try and steady the ship and execute things the first time. It's great that you can get the disc back off of Bristol and stop their D-line from feeling the vibes, but if you can do it in one, that's even better. Start to make those points shorter and give your D-line more time out there on the field to win it back.
So we see the return of this zone from LMU, and it's a throw from Link that drifts over two different people, and Ellie Payne leaves her feet to reel it in, but Saskia Kantarovich can't quite catch it. The throw a little off target, and LMU's D-line, as you said, Hannah, now with a chance to potentially get back into this game. Sam Fisk has Costello wide open on that far side. Costello with the disc, fakes the deep shot, has Polican coming under, tries the inside, bounces off Payne. Polican gets there, but Carla Link knocks it away from, is that Claire Sharman gets there first, just attacks the disc as Sharman's standing to try and receive it.
Yeah, not many times you're going to catch Claire Sharman flat-footed, that is for sure. Link really getting using the frustration force from that missed block from Payne.
So Payne with the disc now, on the sideline, looking for something downfield. Boyd goes up the line. Oldfield is there on the reset, reaches down to grab it. Oldfield basically in the middle of the field, but it's with Lulu Boyd looking downfield, goes to Hocking, but that one's drifted. Looked like Andrews was running in there, trying to get there, and Kantarovich there close on the break as LMU go across, but Costello can't get her hands on it. Boyd with the disc now. Oldfield goes down the line. Boyd fakes that as LMU kind of pack that open side to stop the throw into Oldfield. Over to Carla Link on the far side. Oldfield in the reset position, attacks the front cone. That disc goes up. Oldfield reaches back. Can she keep hold of it? She has kept hold of it. Absolutely absurd catch. Oldfield was not in though. It was on her back on the line when it landed on her and she was able to catch it. Hocking, beautiful break there around. Link just in front of the end zone. Fakes into the end zone twice. And then just hangs on her hand when she's trying to throw to Oldfield. It's a turnover. What a furious little section of the game there.
Was that a mermaid catch for Oldfield? Did she get it in the legs?
It might well have been. It looked like it landed on her somehow, and Andrews shoots deep. Dinsdale Young, no one anywhere near her, but the wind pushes it a little too far, and it is finally a chance for us and the teams on the field to breathe.
Yeah, I don't think LMU will be mad to have gotten those yards. It was looking very, very dangerous indeed. I'm liking the use of the horizontal stack with 3 in the end zone for Bristol, but they just looked a little bit too hesitant. They're 4 back. Maybe they just send someone to be the super dump.
So you can hear LMU counting on the sideline maybe. We've got movement from Bristol as Polican shoots in to try and stop that reset. It's now with Hocking. Boyd fakes the deep shot, then comes across to Oldfield, pointing where she wanted to go. Payne has now got space on this sideline. There's a call. It's a pit call. Carla Link wasn't looking. I was thinking there was a really terrible turnover for a moment there, but it looks like it's going to come back to Boyd as Dinsdale Young and Hocking discuss what was going on.
Yeah, I think that one is very obvious. The call was made well before the throw from Boyd.
Looks like it was a pick. We go back. Disc is with Boyd. It looks like LMU is still in this zone, but I wouldn't surprise me to see them come out of it pretty quickly. Sharman started off as the force, but she's now dropping onto Oldfield. We are in match. Boyd back to Hocking. And to Boyd again. Boyd goes deep. Oldfield has space. Oldfield brings it in. Kantarovich there as well to get some immediate movement. Oldfield goes back out, but Kantarovich deciding to keep hold of it and comes back to Hocking. Kantarovich gets it back. Hocking. Hocking looking downfield. Oldfield's got some space for Sharman. Sharman shoots underneath to try and get there. And Oldfield finds Kantarovitz in the end zone. A tough point for both teams. A lot of turnovers, a lot of really good play, a lot of very exciting play. It was very frantic for a moment there, but eventually Bristol get another hold.
Yeah, you can see how much gas was required to ignite that flame in the end for Bristol women. They did a good job of kind of just keeping the disc alive and moving in the smaller spaces. It would have been nice to see them take on a little bit more of those around breaks as they got towards the end zone. There were a couple of moments when they were on this near side cone. Getting another look at some of the scrambly moments of this point. That's a lovely save from Payne. You can see actually the spoil here comes because it's like Saskia Kantarovitz in stride, but not quite expecting. And of course, that was a fantastic recovery from Alice Poliquin. And the immediate block from Carla. This is more the quality of the game we thought we were getting. And yeah, it's a mermaid catch just about. I think there's some hands getting involved to steady the ship there, but spectacular action, octopus style.
Yeah.
I think that speaks for itself, doesn't it, really? In the end, quite a rudimentary backhand for the goal.
Yeah, quite dull considering how exciting a point that was. There was a lot going on. Really good hand-eye coordination from different people, some good blocks, some really good D from both teams.
Who would have expected this 70 minutes into the game? Bristol 13, LMU 6. Wow.
Bristol really doing everything they can here to convert this win. They've been playing brilliantly all day, starting with Iceni, winning that game by a much bigger margin than any of us would have expected, and so far in this game, doing the same. LMU with another turnover on their O-line, just another fairly simple execution error. Bristol run over and start pretty quickly again. Wedge now with the disc. Ruth Taylor has lots of space in the end zone. Wedge hangs it up there. Ruth Taylor leaves her feet but can't quite reel it in, and she is quite annoyed with herself.
I don't think she deserves to be. That was a big ask. And especially in a game where you're getting lots of options to recover yourselves.
That would have been an amazing catch, but well within Ruth Taylor's capability, leaving her feet all the time. She is a very, very good defensive player, happily throwing herself in front of things. And usually with those layout catches, she catches a lot more than she misses. Marshwick has space at the back if they can find her, but it goes over the head of Hamer, and it's another turnover. Durbin picks it up to go quickly again. Finds Payne. Payne finds Wedge. And Beeching has space, and it goes into the end zone to Beeching. Lovely inside backhand from Molly Wedge. Beeching the whole way there had separation and found in the end zone.
Yeah, it's really strange. I mean, the options that LMU are taking, again, they're getting free, they're making themselves available. It's just that final little bit of tilt on the disc, too much of the underside thrown. It's just strange. They are feeling the pressure that Bristol are putting on them with this match defence, and it is causing all kinds of mischief. So our first match point of many. And let's have a look at these completion rates so we get another look at that fantastic grab from Molly Wedge. This is the difference, really, the kind of stride. Like, they are challenging passes for Bristol women, but they're keeping their eyes on the target and really just enjoying themselves out here.
And you can see as well, Jenna Thompson's trying to get in the way, but she's face marking, and Molly Wedge barely pays her any attention, knows that she's not going to be able to react to that throw.
Yeah, I mean... definitely not paying attention to someone of the calibre of Jenna Thompson, who even into the depth of her career has been nominated for Player Awards of the Year in the European season. But the pass tally, oh my goodness, Sean, the pass tally for Bristol women, it's dropped from 95%. It's only 93.
93 still seems quite decent to me. But
I know, it's a great stat. They can be very proud of how they've played in this final.
So Thompson now, as Bristol come out with a zone in an effort for the D-line, which has been the dominant unit in this game, to try and convert this one, stop the O-line getting all the glory. Weddle goes deep, but Joyce Quacker turned to come under at exactly that moment. There was very minimal separation from Ruth Taylor as well.
That makes me sad in my heart. That was such a nice idea that Weddle had, but just the miscommunication. You can tell the reps maybe aren't quite there.
So Van Nijter shoots to Molly Wedge, who has a little bit of separation, but it's too flat. Molly Wedge apologising, even though I think the throw was probably at fault there. Doesn't really matter, LMU had the disc as the outcome. Thompson fakes, it's with Kwok, switch there. Kwok looking downfield, Weddle on the inside channel. Weddle over to Thompson. Thompson now marked by Molly Wedge. Thompson with the break. Brilliant bid by Weddle to try and get there, but can't quite wrap her hands on a throw that was quite a long way away. It was coming in with some real speed.
Just before this game potentially ends, I want to talk briefly about the Molly Wedge saying sorry for not grabbing that low flat backhand from Varnita. It's a great show of attitude, because there wasn't any bid made by Wedge, and actually the regularity with which you throw yourself at a disc that goes astray will teach you how to get to the ones that you can't before.
It's a beautiful break from Durbin to Wedge, and now it's in with Ruth Taylor, who decides to take on a shot going downfield. I'm not 100% sure about the shot, but it did hit Mudd in the hands, who apologises for not being able to reel it in.
Yeah, that one you do apologise for. I'm glad it didn't quite work out, though, because that was probably one of the uglier upwind throws we have seen out of this Bristol women's squad. We got to finish on some sizzle, Sean.
That would be ideal, obviously, but Bristol won't care as Ruth Taylor gets in there. Knocks the disc away from Alex Nevitt, again showing her defensive prowess. Payne has lots of space, brings that one down. Mudd has space as well. Mudd looking downfield, goes to Payne. Payne across the field to Taylor. Wedge goes into the end zone. Taylor puts that one up in the air. Durbin trying to clean up behind, but can't quite get there. There's a call, it looks like. That disc is going up quite high. Wedge saying maybe she was going to recover onto it if Huang didn't come across.
Well, let's get another look at that one.
And it looks as though we're attracting and it's a turnover, right? So we see the replay, that disc is coming over. Wedge looks over that shoulder. Huang is coming in. I don't know, even if Wedge is able to continue that, it's drifting away from her the whole time. I don't know if she would have got there. So Huang with the disc on LMU's own end zone line. Douglas down the line to Weddle. Weddle fakes that deep shot, instead takes the inside throw to Nevitt. Nevitt been fantastic downfield all game for LMU. Kwok faking that big rip downfield. She's thrown a few of them. Huang to Weddle. Nevitt, space again. But she's turned around. Kwok, tightly marked by Ruth Taylor. Weddle, back to Huang. Huang looking for something. Nevitt, free again, but can't bring that one in. Mudd just runs into her after the turnover. Just making sure everyone's okay here, and it is a turnover.
So I think we've had a defensive strategy, especially for this point from Bristol, to actually force LMU out, so towards the nearest sideline, which is paying dividends. They're able to set traps and make throws really difficult, and that's a ripper.
Durbin rips that one deep. Again, Bristol going this tactic of send it deep and let's see what happens. Wedge was going deep and had Kwok and Huang in the vicinity, but it's a turnover, and now LMU going down again from left to right. So Nevitt with the disc on this near sideline.
Yeah, definitely a force out, which is really working. They're able to pin them so effectively. Look at the pressure that's being put on.
Inside throw from Thompson to Huang. Joyce Kwok has Weddle and Nevitt downfield. Nevitt clears the space, had time and space, but doesn't look for it. Wedge comes poaching in to try and stop that down the line cut from Jenna Thompson. Disc goes into Huang. LMU moving this disc quite nicely now. Nevitt over to Thompson under some pressure. Thompson shoots deep. Is Joyce Kwok going to be able to recover onto that one? Throws herself at it, but can't quite get there. It's a turnover, and Bristol now have a full field to go.
You cannot ask any more of Joyce Kwok than to get that full stretch. I mean, that's got to be a metre off the ground for the hip height when she goes up for that to try. And you've got to try, because conceding this goal to your opponents is game over and a silver medal for LMU. She's just going to check herself. She's coming off the pitch. I think Joyce Kwok is going to take an injury sub. She'll be replaced by, we'll find out, looks to be potentially Bevan.
It looks like it's Kulikovska coming in.
Yeah,
there we go.
She was too far into the pitch. She's got to start from where the injury is called. But great effort from Joyce Kwok, putting it all on the line. And it's interesting, when LMU, you can tell the flow completely changes when they put those break sides throws into the middle section of the pitch. And if they can keep it there, not swing it too far to either of the sidelines, that's what's making their lives easier. It all started with that backhand break from Thompson to Huang. But let's see if they can get another chance at recovering this one, LMU.
We have a sub from Bristol as well, taking advantage of that injury call. Mudd is off the field and Alice Beeching is on. Beeching, who's been so influential for Bristol in this game and for the rest of the season, and for several seasons to be fair. So wedge, back to Van Nijter. Van Nijter to Taylor. Taylor tries to break the mark, but Kwok knocks that one to the ground. Short field now for LMU. Huang. Kwok bodying Taylor out of the way. No call, but they're just apologising and making sure everyone's happy. And Huang rips that one deep. Beeching attacks it early. Oh, and Payne got there, but it doesn't matter because Rachel Douglas has got her mitts on it.
Oh, the second chance hero of this game, Rachel Douglas, one of our own. For the fans and the live stream. But yeah, no, that is a good little bit of energy there. But I have to say, with the wind behind them and the hooter just going off behind us, I think we're probably going to see this one. I reckon an offensive hold for Bristol here.
That's where you put your money, isn't it? Bristol's offenses look pretty untroubled for a lot of the game, as we see a nice hand block there from Kwok. Beeching, very optimistic jump. Payne definitely gets a hand on it. And history will remember that Rachel Douglas has a flying layout score and a towering skying grab for two incredible goals. That's what history will remember.
I mean, to be fair, we've seen some amazing things out of Rachel Douglas in her time. So let's see if we can add another to the tally of the clean holds for Bristol's O-line. Thus far, it's been 4 for 7. Can they make it 5 for 8?
That 3 for 14 number for LMU is...
We won't talk about it. Let's just not go there.
Never going to win a game with that kind of retention. It's very, very tough for LMU. As you've said several times, they definitely have the ability to complete these passes and they're not necessarily doing the wrong things. It's just some execution errors that have really put them behind the 8 ball here. Hocking picks it up basically at halfway. Oldfield. Payne already within the brick mark as Flissman attacks that front cone. Comes back to Lisa Hocking, one of the captains of the team. Hocking down the line to Boyd. Boyd down the line. Flissman catches the goal that wins Bristol another national title. 15-7 over LMU. They were ahead all game. Brilliant run to start the game. 3 breaks in a row. Took half at 8-4 and carried on that fantastic run into the second half. A brilliant performance from Bristol all day today in the semi-final against Iceni and now in the final. And they are bringing another trophy back to the Southwest.
Absolutely, Sean. Well, I have to say it was a very, very dull style of offence that finished us off there. Nothing to necessarily throw shade about, but it was all about those big shots that kind of just take the energy, try and just control the game and the pace and the flow from the very beginning. Those big shots really paying dividends in both the semi-final and the final today for Bristol's women. But I mean, the thing that's most impressive is the completion rates for Bristol on both offence and defence. The passes per turnover, an absolutely scandalous 16.8 for Bristol's O-line versus LMU's 3.4, and 8.8 versus 2.2 D-line to D-line. So lots for LMU to think about as they carry on their EUCS campaign. Of course, both these teams well in the standings to hit that final championship later on in the season. But thank you for joining us. What a game, Sean.
What a game, what a performance by Bristol. Congratulations to the team taking home another national title. We will be back with you for the next 2 finals. Next up, we have the open final, Chevron against Clapham, a rematch, but as we saw last year, who knows what's going to happen here. And then finally, we'll have the mixed final for you. Stick with us for those. But for now, we will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, ultimate.
ULTI.TV.